Before you can do coordinate geometry proofs, you need to be able to do a couple of other things first. One of them is to be able to find the distance between points. Another is to be able to find the slope. And the final is to be able to use the midpoint formula to find the midpoint of a line segment. In order to do these things, you need to know the formula and be able to apply it. So we're going to practice this first, and then we'll get into coordinate geometry. We've already used the distance formula before. That was way back at the beginning of the school year. And you already used the slope formula last year in Algebra 1, and it was called the average rate of change. And the midpoint I don't think you may have seen as of yet. And the midpoint is the middle point of a line. So that's the average of the points. So we're going to label this as our answer key. And we're going to perform the operations on each of these problems. So hopefully you remember that the distance formula is equal to the square root of the change of x square, and that's plus the change of y square. So my two x values are negative 8 and 4. I'm going to plug it into the formula. So negative 8 minus 4 square plus 4 minus 3 square, and we're going to do the math. So we get negative 12 square, and that's plus 1 square, and we get the square root of 145. We don't need to simplify this at this point in time. In order to do coordinate geometry proofs, that is, we just want to show that we get equal distances or equal values. So simplifying the radical at this point in time is not a major concern. It is in other areas though, so don't forget to simplify radicals that are not in coordinate geometry proofs. So we want to find the slope of the line, and the slope is the rise over run. But when you're given 2 points, we're going to find the change of y and divide that by the change of x. Okay, again, these are formulas you're going to have memorized for the Regents exam. Okay, so we need to take the y values first. Let's go with 8 and negative 8. So 8 minus a negative 8 all over my change of x is 5 minus 7. If you wanted to start with the negative 8 and subtract 8 and then 7 minus 5, that's fine too. Just whichever value you start with in the coordinate, you have to use its coordinated x value as the first value in the denominator. So we have 8 plus 8 is 16 over a negative 2, and that gives us a negative 8. So the slope of these 2 points is a negative 8. And slope is represented by m. Midpoint. The formula for that is you take the two x values, add them, and divide by 2, and then you take the two y values and add them and divide by 2. This is a coordinate, so the midpoint is in fact a coordinate, not just one single value. So my two x values are 6 and 4. I'm going to add and divide, and my two y values are 5 and 7. Add and divide, and we get 10 divided by 2 is 5, 12 divided by 2 is 6. So the midpoint is 5 and 6 as a coordinate. Okay, you go ahead and try the next couple. Press pause now in order to do that. So check your answers with mine and see if you got the same thing. If not, go ahead and look back and see if you can find the mistakes that you made. That's part of the learning process also. ask me any questions if you need to. Now this is something different compared to what you've done before, and in order to be able to determine whether or not lines are parallel or perpendicular, we have to evaluate the slopes of those lines. So for two lines to be parallel, they need to have the same slope. And we did take a look at this in one of the units earlier. And in order to determine whether or not two lines are perpendicular, they have a negative reciprocal slope. Okay, so everything is opposites. It's flipped and it's negated. So in order to determine whether AB is parallel to CD in number 7, we're going to check the slopes of AB. So those are the two given points. It's the change of y over the change of x. So we have 6 minus 11 over negative 4 minus a negative 1. So 6 minus 11 is a negative 5, and a negative 4 plus 1 is a negative 3. So this is equal to positive 5/3. Be careful with your signs and make sure that you're plugging them in correctly. So I need to get another slope of 5/3 to be able to say that these two lines containing these endpoints are parallel. So for CD, I need negative 4 minus 1 over the change of x of 0 minus 3. Negative 4 minus 1 is a negative 5 over a negative 3, and that amounts to a positive 5/3. So I do get the same values, so these two are parallel. For number 8, we're going to determine whether AB is perpendicular to CD. So change of y, 8 minus 7, over the change of x, 3 minus 5, is negative 1/2. And we're hoping for a negative reciprocal slope. So for CD, 5 minus 7 over 5 minus 6 is a negative 2 over negative 1, and that amounts to a positive 2. So positive 2 over 1 is the negative reciprocal of negative 1/2. It's the opposite. It's flipped and it's negated. So yes, perpendicular. Okay, why don't you press pause at this time and try the other two and see if you can tell whether or not the lines are parallel in number 9 and the lines are perpendicular in number 10. When you unpause it, I'll have the answers and you can compare them. So as you can see for number 9, the two slopes are the same, so that means that the two lines are parallel. And for number 10, we do not get negative reciprocal slopes, so they're not perpendicular. Now you're ready to do coordinate proofs.